The Hawaii Sports Radio Network on 95.1 FM and AM 760 presents Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani.
Good morning, beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den. I'm Ku'ulei Agbayani alongside Paul Brecht and Michael Liscaro on this happy Aloha Monday on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM, AM 760, hawaiisportsradio.com, and streaming live on our YouTube channel. So hello and welcome to everybody tuning in on our YouTube channel. We always appreciate you guys and anyone tuning in, whether it be live or on demand. Don't forget, you guys can join us on the live chat via YouTube if you want to get in on the conversation, or you can text in anytime at 808-888-KGU1. That's 808-888-5481. And we've got a fun, packed show for all of you coming up, because just when we thought maybe some of the University of Hawai'i news, would start to die down a little bit, fortunately, it has not. And we have got a lot of recruiting news to get to you guys with UH football, especially coming in most recently. And then at the end of last week, we got UH men's basketball commit. Also have some breaking UH men's basketball news as well that we'll tell you about in just a little bit. So a really packed show. Fortunately for Michael Liscaro, that leaves us very little time to talk about the NBA Finals Game 2.
Truly, that breaks his heart.
He doesn't have to relive whatever happened in the game yesterday. And again, I apologize to him already that it was my fault. I did not watch any of the game, so naturally the Pacers weren't shooting very well. So I apologize to all of the Pacers fans, and you're welcome to all of the basketball fans in general, because now the series is tied 1-1. And here we go. We got a series right back into it before it heads out to Indiana. Anyways, before we get into some recruiting stuff, things though, gentlemen, how are we doing? How are we feeling this morning?
I'm feeling good. I'm excited to be here. You've said it. You put it out on social media. It is an incredibly packed show, and only more coming on our plates as we jump on the air here at this 8 o'clock hour. So, I'm super pumped. In a different seat today, so a little bit getting used to that portion of it, but otherwise, I'm doing pretty well.
And you'll be in a different seat next week, too.
We're switching. We're trying to see how much change Paul can handle at one time.
That's why we had to do it a little bit at a time, and that's why we put Michael Liscaro here in the production seat, because that's where he will be for the next few weeks, starting next week. And
it's great planning. I followed it, but
And Ku, talking about the Pacers, that is why I'm wearing a Los Angeles Rams shirt today, is because they they did their job. They got 1-1, but I'm not, I'm going to wear the Rams because we do have Caesar in our chat talking about the Rams coming next week. I'm hoping that he wouldn't be surprised if he sees me on Maui. But unfortunately, I don't think it's in the cards because Ku'ulei is leaving us. So Caesar, I won't get to meet you because Ku'ulei is going on her 5-week vacation. And and the wide receiver you're thinking of is Puka Nacua. He is wearing a new number this year, number 12. So I know you
good number.
You want to know who played for Kalani Sitake at BYU, but it's Puka Nacua.
There you go, Puka Nacua. I'm so bummed because naturally, because we were out covering a lot of the Special Olympics stuff over the weekend. That was a great event. We'll talk about it a little later in the show. But we had to take a lot of our in-studio equipment on site and a lot of stuff. So I was very, very focused on making sure that we get our YouTube up for you guys. So I was all about making sure I have the iPad, the cameras are charged, and we're ready to go for YouTube. That I forgot one of the other most important things in my laptop charger. So if I am a little, I don't respond to some of the YouTube chats. Hopefully the guys will keep me in tune to what's going on because my computer is pretty much dead. I've tried to plug it into this other charger that's not made for your laptop, and naturally it is not working that great. It's like my computer is tweaking out a little bit, but hopefully we bear with me, and luckily I have the two guys in here to help me out throughout this show, so we won't be completely, I know it's not like we're gonna run out of stuff to talk about, especially with the recruiting stuff. So let's get to it. We will start off with UH football news, a few of the major commitments coming up over the weekend. And you know what? And this is where our Michael Liscarroll, he is actively covering UH football and getting you guys a lot of the stuff you need to know, even with the high school
You can say
recruits
it.
here.
This is where our Michael Liscarroll is the best.
Exactly. So we will let him kind of tell you a little bit more of the details when it comes to some of the recruits that we got in. So let's start off here locally, announcing his commitment to the University of Hawai'i. Jaron Altura, 5'10", 175-pound corner out of St. Louis High School in the class of 2026. Other offers, at least in reference to 247 Sports, got an offer from Colorado State. So, Michael, tell us a little bit about what we need to know about this guy coming out of St. Louis.
Well, he's got speed, and that's what you want from your defensive back position. I believe he ran the 40 at a 4.38. So that's NFL speed right there. He's also a track athlete, and he's got the speed for it. One thing I will say is I think this might be an underrated gem of this class because he's only been playing defensive back maybe just for about a year or two now. Because at his early start in his career at St. Louis, he was trying to make it as a quarterback. He was taking snaps behind center. So
those are two very different positions.
Yeah, so he might, there's still room for him to grow. When I got to chat with him a bit via text message, he's mentioned that Coach Dennis Thurman and PJ Minaya, who's the new cornerbacks coach that got elevated, really was liking the scheme and whatnot. And PJ Minaya is someone that I think will really help with that transition because PJ Minaya was a standout quarterback at Pac-5, went on to play for Pacific, and he's making his rounds in on the defensive side of the staff. Now he's the cornerbacks coach. And if you remember Cam Stone last year when he had his press conference for his Mountain West All Mountain West Award, he mentioned Coach PJ Minaya. So that's a name coming up through the coaching ranks that I do think we need to kind of promote. And he is also a local guy. So one thing with Jaron is that he says like he's a big fan of Jair Alexander. So I know our Kyle Galdero will like that. But I think they're actually releasing Jair Alexander
this morning.
Morning. So that's
okay. That's beside the point now.
But one thing I do want to point out is that Jaron, I am rocking a Scoring Live hat because I do want to take some credit because Scoring Live did select him as a first team All Hawaii defensive back. I think it was close between him and Madden Soliai. Now Madden Soliai is a name that's getting some national recognition. I think he went to a Michigan camp, so that kind of goes to show you what kind of player Jaron is, the type of caliber he is. If some of the media members picked him up or had said that he had a better season than Madden Soliai did last year, so that's really good. But yeah, Jaron is I think you got to give some shout out to Titan Lakaden for wanting him to recruit him. I think Titan retweeted Jaron saying, "I've been trying to recruit this guy from the first day he got offered," which if I believe it was December 10th of last year. So that's he got the offer and he committed. He should be good. He says that the coaches see him either at corner or at nickel, and that's kind of a good sign because even if it doesn't pan out, you can always get bumped over to safety. I think Kilinahe Mendiolo Jensen, similar. He played corner at Punahou, and then now he's a safety for the Rainbow Warriors. So he does have versatility, and he does have value if he doesn't pan out at that position.
Yeah, and again, a class of 2026, Jaron Otura out of St. Louis High School, 175-pound DB. And like we had talked to Matt Chon about a couple of months ago, this is where it is recruiting for the future, right? Because as we know, the defense, especially the secondary, is pretty stacked right now under defensive coordinator Dennis Thurman. And it's all about recruiting for the future. And a lot of these guys that we'll talk about today are class of 2026, which is kind of what a lot of these schools are recruiting right now. All right, let's kind of blend in the middle of the three now. Micah Eugenio, a quarterback. Yes, a quarterback. Again, class of 2026, 180-pound quarterback out of Bishop Gorman, and holding offers from Arizona State, Cornell, Florida Atlantic, North Alabama, and UNLV, of course, because, again, it's kind of like the Bishop Gorman pipeline once again, and now we're getting the quarterbacks to follow in the footsteps of Micah Alihado. So it's a perfect kind of almost transitional phase where Micah will be the veteran at that point, and then Micah can come, the other Micah 2.0. I don't know, his own Micah, spelled differently though, so that's kind of the funny thing.
Micah and Micah.
Micah and Micah. So coming in, and for our YouTube friends, he posted on Twitter or X, I guess, with his mom there on the airplane, coming in for his official visit, Micah Eugenio. So Michael Lescaro, tell us a little bit about what we need to know from this guy, and what type of arm talent are we looking at here?
Yeah, well, I mean, you said Micah. You can spell it two different ways, just like you can spell Michael two different ways, because it's misspelled in our YouTube headline. But yeah, he definitely can sling it. He does have that. He does pass the eye test in terms of being able to throw a good spiral. He's wanted to come home for a while now. I remember I texted you guys in a group chat that this is before June, that hey, don't be surprised if we get a commitment from him coming like later this week. Of course, we waited till after the official visit because kind of wants to put on that jersey. I do see he's rocking that number 14 jersey, which was Timmy Chang's jersey number in college, I believe. I don't know, maybe that should get retired, but that's another story. But he definitely needs to kind of, hopefully we're getting him at a good time, and hopefully that the coaching staff made him feel very comfortable and are kind of giving that full court press that I knew that Coach Timmy did with Micah Alejado, because he doesn't have, he was kind of the backup to start the year last year after Alejado graduated, so he didn't get much reps against the higher echelon teams that they would play in their non-league schedule, because once they get to play in whatever league they play in Vegas, they kind of steamroll opponents like 63-0. Is very high scoring game. So he's gonna need to have a big senior year. But he definitely passes the eye test. But definitely having a big senior year will have a lot of fans excited for him. But again, he's a local boy. I think he grew up in Kapolei, was enrolled at Kamehameha, so another Cal Gadara shout out there. So he definitely is local. He does have some Hawaiian blood. I know some people that watched the Lilo and Stitch were complaining that Nani didn't have Hawaiian blood, but this guy Michael Eugenio, he does have Hawaiian blood, so because he got into Kamehameha. But yeah, he should be good. I do want to say that Bishop Gorman is coming down this year to play Kahuku August 30th. There's no UH home game that day because they're on the road to play Arizona, so I'm already kind of gonna put the wink to Koo that hey, I gotta cover this game, Koo, because there's Hawaii commits on that stuff, and we might as well get a chance to beat them in person.
Yeah, on both sides, and anything with high school football. All right, we got to take a quick break. We'll be back after traffic in a little bit. We got one more recruit to tell you guys about, and then get into some UH men's basketball recruiting and breaking news out of the University of Hawaii for men's basketball. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Stuck in traffic? That sucks. Here's why on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Aloha and good morning, Honolulu. Live in the traffic center, I'm Taizo Braden. Our traffic conditions this morning have pretty much already cleared townbound at the H1, H2 merge. A little bit of a brake check through Waikele into the merge itself, but no accidents or stalls from Central or West Oahu. Northbound on Fort Weaver Road through Kolowaka, Renton, we're looking good from Ocean Point up towards Westlawn. No slowdowns on the Waianae Coast, we're looking good through Nanakuli, and looking good townbound on both Honolulu Freeway, the H1 Viaduct, clear into Middle Street and downtown Honolulu. No accidents or stalls over the Ko'olau, whether you choose the Pali, the Likelike, or the H3. And the east side commute, we're still clear pretty much from Hawaii Kai all the way through Kaimuki in towards UH Manoa. Again, very positive sign of the light commute this morning with no accidents or stalls from the windward or east side. I'm Taizo Braden, live in the traffic center.
Find a career where passion meets purpose at Hawaii Pacific Health. We're looking for qualified candidates for clinical and non-clinical positions on Oahu, Kauai, and Hawaii Island. Enjoy competitive pay, medical benefits within 30 days of hire, and opportunities for professional development and advancement. Help make a difference for our patients and communities. Join us in creating a healthier Hawaii. Apply today at hawaiipacifichealth.org/careers.
Let's go.
Wake Up in the Den with Kulale Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Let's go.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Kulale Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and Michael Liscaro on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, Hawaii Sports Radio.com, and streaming live on our YouTube channels. Thank you guys for tuning in, whichever medium you guys are doing so. All right, keeping rocking and rolling with a lot of University of Hawaii stuff to get you. I do want to mention this breaking news coming out of the men's basketball program right now. We'll elaborate on a little bit and on it a bit more a little later in this hour. But breaking news out of the UH men's basketball program is saying via their social media, proud to announce that 5-time Olympian, NBA champion, and 16-year NBA veteran Patty Mills is officially the general manager of #HawaiiMBB. So big news. Really, really cool coming out of the program, and another way to get fans excited about this upcoming season. Again, we've seen the quote-unquote celebrity general managers that have been a part of other programs. You have Steph Curry there at his alma mater in Dayton. You have Shaq at Sac State and a bunch of other ones as well. So Hawaii getting their NBA guy to be the general manager for the UH men's basketball program. So shout out to head coach Aran Ganat and everybody else. And of course, Patty Mills welcoming in officially to the Rainbow Warrior Ohana. All right, like we said, we'll get you more info on that and some recruiting news for men's basketball, but I do want to stick with our football recruiting news just to wrap things up. In the first segment, we talked about Jaron Altura out of St. Louis High School coming in, class of 2026. Micah Eugenio out of Bishop Gorman, but does have local ties and is originally from here. So coming back home now, we're almost blending the local ties and still sticking with the Bishop Gorman pipeline. Isaiah Nichols, a 5'10", 155-pound athlete out of Bishop Gorman, class of 2026. Other offers include Boise State, Utah State, and Idaho State. So, Michael, tell us a little bit about this guy and why fans should be excited about him coming into the program.
Well, I know you got about a chuckle seeing that he got offered from Boise State, and you know where he's from. But I'm not too sure if that Boise State offer was a committable offer. You know, it may have just been one of those roster spots where, hey, you know, where maybe after your initial signing day period, if they don't get the guy they want, they're gonna come. You're gonna have the backup plan.
Yeah, no, it's on 247 Sports, so I'm going with that.
but he's also not rated as any stars, I believe, on 247 Sports. So it's one of those things with recruiting where you might not know how good a player is. But one thing I will say about him is that he's a worker. You know, he said that he could play both sides of the ball, and he did play both sides of the ball for Bishop Gorman. So, you know, he's kind of undersized. I think he's listed at 5'10". He's probably shorter than that. But he definitely will work. He had some great games. I think against St. Thomas Aquinas, he had that really big pass deflection with 1:02 left in the game to kind of key on him and preserve a 29-21 lead. But they also did kind of target him a bit. But I think Michael Alejado actually tweeted back at me where he said that he's a gem. So he's going to be a hard worker. And I think he's strong too. I think he max cleans 315 and runs a 4.5 dash.
Love that.
But yeah, he might be one of those players where he's one of those gadget guys where you just put him in a spot where, hey, this guy can go out, can contribute in this area. Maybe don't ask too much of him, but he's definitely a good piece to have. Maybe he could be someone that can replace Elijah Palmer in the future because he is kind of that similar mode, similar stature. He's definitely gonna have to get in the weight room more because Elijah Palmer is yoked for a guy his size. And but yeah, Isaiah Nichols, he's gonna be a good one. Maybe, you know, maybe it was one of those things though where we might needed to get Isaiah Nichols to get Micah Eugenio on board. So yeah,
I'll take it.
Good to have him. The coaches said he wants to be maybe both sides of the ball and maybe punt return. So he's excited to be here. Definitely follow in the footsteps of all of the Bishop Gorman greats that have come to the program.
Hey, Paul, what are some of your thoughts on these new recruits coming into the University of Hawaii? Again, class of 2026. So still got a little bit more ways to go, but nonetheless, good to see our squad on the recruiting trail as always.
Yeah, I'm always a fan of getting a good jump on the recruiting class. And on top of that, Michael does a nice job, as I said at the top of the show. If you're not following him yet when it comes to both breaking this news and getting a little additional information on these guys, I think it's important. The speed kills. Realistically speaking, that's what I think about with a couple of these guys. Speed kills, and I also appreciate that they continue to recruit from elite programs. I think winning is contagious. I think that winning is a mentality. It's something that you see at the college level as well. The elite programs stay elite because the standard stays the standard. So if you bring in players from these great programs in high school, whether it is a St. Louis who won the state championship here in Hawaii this past year, or you go to Bishop Gorman, who's one of the best teams in the nation when it comes to high school football year over year. I like that because they're bringing in guys with the mentality of, I don't like to lose. I'm not used to losing. It's winning or it's getting better, but it's mostly just winning, and that's what I appreciate. And also, once again, speed kills. So if you continue to bring in guys who are fast, I believe in our coaching staff enough and their ability to teach, to be good football players, that if you're just taking big swings on great athletes, I think that's the right way to go about it, especially with high school kids at this point, with the prevalence of transfer portal, JUCO, etc., whatever.
Yeah, and it reminded me, Michael, I know it was either Micah or Jaron that has mentioned, and it's been kind of a common theme here with a lot of these recruits coming in where they're saying that they want to be part of essentially the new era and bringing Hawaii back on top where it once was, right? Bringing back the success and that feel of maybe even not even going to the 06, 07, 08 era, but even just most recently, as we talk about like the 2018, 2019 era, where it's just at least making it to the Mountain West Championship game at the very least, like consistently, right? Being in the mix, being talked about, really feeling like you're competing to get into that championship game every single season. And now obviously after this year it'll be shaken up a little bit and there will be no Boise State, but it seems to be a common thing, and I can appreciate that. But if it, again, no really notes here, but I know it was one of them that kind of said that they wanted to be part of making Hawaii great as it once was.
Yeah, well, Jaron's uncle, I don't have his name on top of my head, but Jaron's uncle did play for the program. So that's kind of why he feels tied to want to play for the Rainbow Warriors. But yeah, so my thing with the recruits is that they're good players, and definitely Hawaii needed this buzz, right? Because I think there was a tweet I retweeted where it was like showing all the teams in the West where all the number of commits they have for 2026, and Hawaii was dead last with one. So they definitely needed some commits to just kind of keep pace, right? And with that being said, you just need people to build up your roster. And then, of course, there's transfer portal and there's, NIL and whatnot. Maybe with Matt Elliott, we might be able to get some unknown booster, some unknown funder to fund our NIL funds. But it comes down to relationships. And right now we are tapping into that Bishop Gorman pipeline, which is good. Definitely when Chris Brown came over in Timmy's first year, we just needed anybody and everybody to come suit up for the Rainbow Warriors because we got hit hard with the transfer portal. I think Phil Steele's magazine comes out today. Are you a VIP member?
Is it today?
Yes.
I will sign up and get the online version for sure.
Yes, yeah. So I know previous years we've been kind of like on the bottom of the pack of the Mountain West. I feel like this year we're right in the middle. And as we continue to ascend up the ranks, we need to raise the level more on our recruiting. And I think that's one where, we see with Patty Mills being the GM. Now we got Matt Chun elevated to the GM. Maybe we can have a bit of more of a strategy. And then I know we're probably going to talk about Matt Elliott, but then hopefully with some stability, we can have that strategic identity in how we want to attack recruiting and fundraising and whatnot. Because right now I think it's just kind of mishmash. But yeah, again, a good sense for the program. Matt Elliott, I think next week we're supposed to meet with him, or he's going to meet with the media.
Yeah, and Matt Elliott has his work cut out for them. There's something else we're going to get into a little later in this hour is the House settlement that was finalized last week. I know that's been a big deal. Don't worry. I was like trying to dive into everything you guys needed to know, which we will get to in just a little bit, and kind of give you an idea of how much the University of Hawaii needs to make up for financially because of the settlement terms. But before we get into that, though, I want to switch gears from football and get into some UH men's basketball, as we just mentioned, and Michael kind of talked about there for just a little bit. Patty Mills, a 16-year NBA veteran and 5-time Olympian, was announced as the general manager for the Rainbow Warriors basketball program. Patty Mills will support student-athlete mentorship and development while contributing to key areas including recruiting, fundraising, the big thing, especially in this day and age.
Very interesting.
And community engagement. So again, having that name to the program, like we see some other programs as well. In case everyone's wondering, like, Patty Mills, that's kind of random. Yes and no. He is a longtime resident, actually, of Hawaii. He spent the last decade living on Oahu's North Shore during the NBA offseason. In 2019, he married his longtime partner, Alyssa, in a ceremony in Waimea Valley, so a place that now holds special meaning for their family. So making Hawaii their second home. And of course, what a perfect blend to have a basketball player with that type of experience, a professional basketball player that is coming in over to help this UH men's basketball program. Just again, with just bringing it even to the forefront and the attention and hopefully fundraising a bit more money, all of that stuff that you need to step forward and succeed, especially now that the House settlement has gone finalized, and seeing that a lot of schools, when it comes to revenue sharing, will give a lot. It'll be disproportionate. A lot of it will go to UH football, at least in terms of what I'm seeing from other schools, or not UH football programs in general. About 75 to 80% of the revenue share will go to football programs, and about 10 to 15% will go to men's basketball specifically for these top programs. And who knows which G5 programs will do the same. I'm sure a lot of Mountain West schools will do the same. And then the rest will have to be shared to the rest of the sports. So you're talking about, and I feel like UH, I don't know how they're going to split it up. We'll talk about that a little later. But those are all of the things that need to be considered as we move into this new era of sports. So, Paul, before we get into some of the recruiting stuff, what are your thoughts now that there's Patty Mills going to be in the house as the new general manager for the Rainbow Warriors?
I'm super pumped about this. I told you guys during the break that this is the type of move that Hawaii needs to make. Not for any purpose other than it's just common practice now in college sports. On top of that, I appreciate the choice for a couple of reasons, right? The international success that Patty Mills has, and that's really been a big topic that we've talked about, obviously, before this year, but a lot of times the men's basketball team does a nice job recruiting overseas players, recruiting these players with international experience, and to have somebody who is, I mean, in my opinion, a FIBA legend in Patty Mills to be your GM, even if he is not, operating in a way where it's like he is in the trenches recruiting every day, but even if he is just helping you out, talking to players about, hey, this is what the program could be, even if it is bringing his connections to the table, however he can help, I'm going to take the help of a 16-year NBA veteran, the help of a guy who has been to 5 different Olympics. I'm going to take the help of that. So really excited for the University of Hawaii. It's a fun, flashy lights type of move. I don't know how much it actually really impacts you this year and how the team is going to be, because the team is pretty much set as it is. But overall, this is really, really fun, really, really exciting. A nice step for Patty Mills as well, who has continued to take more and more prevalence in the community here in Hawaii. You mentioned lives up on the North Shore and has been familiar with the island since, the early 2000s, middle of the early 2000s, back 2007, obviously, played at St. Mary's, all this stuff. So excited. I think it's cool. I don't think it changes whether I don't think he adds like 2 wins to the Bows total for this year type of thing. But I do think that going forward, this can be a very helpful tool for the program.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will get into some men's basketball recruiting news as Hawaii getting another commitment, again, filling up that roster that they need to very badly after losing a bunch of players via the transfer portal and graduation. So don't go anywhere. We'll talk more men's basketball coming up on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Stuck in traffic?
All right. Ooh. Look. I got that wag.
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Here I go coming. I can't ever stop. I'm a tour de force running. Get me to the top. I don't need
Welcome back to all of you, the beautiful list of all the beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den, Ku'ulei Agbayani, Michael Escaro manning the controls today, getting kind of warmed up and ready for next week when he will be behind the board. Paul Brecht will move into this seat, and we will see. We'll have probably a different assortment of people that'll come in and be sitting where Paul is right now. So, hey, that'll be a fun time. So Paul Brecht handing over the controls to Paul starting off on Friday, as I'm going to bow out up here for a little bit. So it's going to be a fun time with these two gents and company. So be sure you guys tune in again starting Friday, and we'll see you. Maybe I'll be back. I don't know. I'll be back in no time. We'll see.
You'll be back eventually.
Everyone will hear me probably chime in every once in a while I'm gone as well. Especially I won't be able to stay away if there's any significant breaking news. I will be texting you guys and be like, let me on. And then you guys have to just allow me to come on, or else.
Cool. You're on vacation. That's what we're going to hit you with.
I need to talk on the now.
The same thing you hit me with while I was on my honeymoon, I'm going to hit
different.
you with.
That is different.
Is it?
Yes.
Is it?
Honeymoon is more important than vacation.
So here's
a normal
the thing.
Vacation.
Like, yes, but my counter is you don't take that many vacations like this. So it's like enjoy your time off. Enjoy your time off, Coop.
Thanks, but no thanks. I would like tweak out if I took more than.
Once again, hilarious of me to say that. Someone who was itchy. I'm on a boat being like, can I write this article?
Yeah, I'm like, come on. So again, honeymoon is entirely, although now I'm like, I'd probably do the same on my honeymoon. But see, I would be the bride. So the bride is allowed to do what she wants. It's the
right.
groom
Morgan
that
was
isn't allowed
yelling. She was yelling at me by the end of it. She's like, "Go write your article. I'm gonna sit by the pool. It'll be fine."
Anywho, it'll be a fun time with these guys taking over the helm again, starting on Friday. But anywho, we were talking about a lot of UH football commitment news in the beginning of this hour, so we'll probably get back into it a little bit more in the second hour. But we've just mentioned as well that Patty Mills, an NBA veteran, amongst other things, has been announced as the new general manager for the Rainbow Warrior basketball team. Coming up on tomorrow's show, we will let you guys hear from head coach Eran Ganat and also Patty Mills. So be sure you guys tune in tomorrow morning. But after that, or prior to that, at the ending of last week, Hawaii getting another commitment coming out, a grad transfer out of Seton Hall. So, Mr. Paul Brecht, tell us a little bit about who's coming in and why fans could be excited about the latest commitment for the Rainbow Warrior basketball team.
I gladly will do, Ms. Agbayani. It's Yassine Toumi, who hails from France, also is French-Tunisian, so I'm going to have to get a little more clarification on that one. Played for the Tunisian national team before making his way off to the United States, actually, for his senior year of high school. Went to school out in Maryland. Originally goes to Arkansas Little Rock. Spent just a year there. After not seeing as much time as he probably had hoped, drops down to the JUCO level for just a season and then bounces back up to Evansville, who we've actually become accustomed with. I got a couple of tweets in my mentions from some funny guys talking about, man, the Evansville to Hawaii pipeline is strong. It is hot. And
Evansville
yes,
in Utah.
Yeah, what can we say? We really love those predominantly basketball towns. Anyway, it's going to be fun. This is a guy who is at 6'10", not your typical forward, right? He can sometimes play almost like a guard in the way that he moves. Not necessarily the greatest shooter, has the ability to knock down threes, but also will do more of his damage from inside the arc, mostly working from the elbows is where I like to see him do his damage. Had 2 great seasons at Evansville, started over 60 games during his time there, played in over 60 games during his time there, averaged more than 10 points and 6 rebounds at his time at the mid-major level, which is why you get a pretty good feeling about his addition, especially if he does come in. Obviously, right now, it appears he might be the backup 4 or 5. He probably could also push Harry Ruliadeff in there. You have Jalen Myers. And no matter what it is, it just adds to the continued depth of the men's basketball team for next year, where even once you get down into, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 on the bench, you're not thinking, oh man, we're in trouble. You're thinking, oh wow, this guy could start sometimes. Almost what Harry did last season at multiple points, where you saw Gitas have a good game and then you saw Harry also have a good game, and it's like, wow, do we have 2 starters at the same position? Yeah. It's one of those. Did not have as good a year at Seton Hall last year. A little bit of a step down in playing time, obviously a bump up in competition. And with that, when I chatted with him, he didn't necessarily feel as though he had his greatest year either, which I appreciate. It means he is realistic. He understands, and expects more from himself. As I watched some tape, I didn't think he was necessarily put in the greatest positions, whether it was by the coaching staff, whether it was by teammates. I thought they could have done a better job making him more successful, and that's why I am excited about his addition here, because we have some pretty fun passers. We talk about Aaron Hunkin-Clater all the time, but also a guy who he has some experience prior with in Tanner Cuff during their time at Evansville. So a quality addition, a guy who will compete and most likely be in the rotation next year no matter what. And just at the end of the day, it adds more size, more athleticism, and more ability to the Bows front court, which is something that I had been asking for, not begging for, but asking for a good portion at this point. I'm trying to get some confirmation on how many spots officially they have left to fill, but it is starting to dwindle down. It's either like 2, maybe 3, perhaps 1, obviously. Things change with the new scholarship count, the roster counts now after the House Settlement, which
they
we'll
get
talk
2
about
more.
as well.
It changes for a good way for men's basketball.
Yeah, so we'll talk about the House Settlement and whatnot later, but no, this is another fun addition. I don't want to say exciting addition because that feels unfair to put that much of an expectation on him. I don't know if he'll even compete to start, but I do think he'll be a part of the rotation, and I do think he'll be a productive player in the Big West.
Yeah, I mean, he has the tools. He has the ability to be a contributor and maybe even a standout. Like I texted earlier, or in our group chat this weekend, it's like, if he doesn't pan out, it's not the worst thing, because I think our roster, we've brought in some dogs to start the recruiting period. And I think one thing we've just been kind of retooling the roster every year to year, where they haven't had the chance to build that connection to these individuals. So I think one thing that maybe us, because we do kind of have our sources, is to do a better job at humanizing these players coming in, and just to get to know them and like who they are, what their personality is. That's kind of going to be my question I'm going to ask for Matt Elliott. Just sorry to kind of switch topics. It's just like, there's many Matt Elliott's in the world. What makes if Yassin doesn't work out, I don't think it's the worst thing. He definitely has the size, and you can't teach size. But
it goes back to what I was saying about the speed with the football players.
Yeah. So hopefully we are kind of running a more up tempo team up and down the court, and if we have that, I think Yassin is versatile enough and lanky enough where he might not bog down the offense because we're up and running.
Mm-hmm. And that's where I think Aaron Hunkin-Clater again comes into play a lot, because we've seen him have the ability to push the offense and push the transition, right? Where a little bit of a different style at first for the men's basketball program. So if you have a point guard like Aaron Hunkin-Clater that you really are going to kind of allow to play freely, that will help to push the pace a lot, because he's clearly proven that he has the vision and he wants to give up the basketball, right? And Zor Ned made that comparison to what we see from Halliburton, right? And I have seen that too from Aaron Hunkin-Clater. Obviously, that's huge and like a big comparison, but it is there nonetheless. So it's kind of like, hopefully they allow Aaron Hunkin-Clater to kind of do what we know that he's capable of doing. And when now he has all of these different weapons at his disposal, and not only weapons to toss it to, but weapons that from help the fans obviously get a lot more excited about seeing this pace. And because Aaron's had that year to really adjust to everything, to get his feet wet and get used to this offense, and getting that confidence, more important, gets me excited, is not only you already have your point guard there that has that experience, and then you have all of these weapons that he has now. And that's, I hope that we see a lot of the offense flow like even more seamlessly now with Aaron having all of that experience. So I'm getting excited seeing this peak, all of these pieces. And like we said, like Yassin, obviously he's not coming in to be one of the starters anytime soon. But as we know, at this top level of sports, even in a sport that doesn't use that many players on the floor at one time, you need to end of or the entire game, right? That's stuff you expect from your guards, but your bigs, even down to your forwards, I'll say it, like you need to be sure you can put in fresh legs every now and then when you need to. So right now it's just about having depth, and I'm excited to see maybe we see a couple more pieces to add to the depth, but I think a lot of fans can be confident and excited about what we have put together so far.
Quite frankly, this team will be leaps and bounds more exciting than last year's, and that's not disrespect to last year's team. I think if you talk to the players from last year's group, they're disappointed in how the season built, or group who is built off wanting to play fast. It's much more, like you said, built to the strengths of your point guard, built to the strengths of Hunkin-Clater, or even you'll see Tanner Cuff, and I keep bringing this name up purposefully because I think he is going to be somebody who surprises people a lot next year, who maybe he doesn't have the sexy numbers, maybe he's not putting up 14 points per game and 7 assists or whatever, but I do think in a way, so to me, I think of like a Josh Hart where it does everything. Alex Caruso, for those of you who are watching I'm pointing at Ko and I have a camera right here. For those of you who are watching the NBA Finals, and he also has the size to do it, so it makes it a little bit easier. So when Aaron wants to run, he can run. Or if Aaron needs a break, because I do think the Bows will be playing faster this year, then you have guys like a Tanner Cuff who will still pitch it ahead to somebody like Hunter Erickson, Hunter Carter, pitch it ahead if Yassin Toomey is running, and have all of these guys. If you're going to play at a faster depth, look no further than this year's finals, where you have the Pacers, where you have the Thunder, both of these teams playing 10, 11, 12, 13 guys sometimes because they need to have all of these bodies on any given night. I'm not saying that the Bows are going to be as good as those teams, but I am saying that it's a lot easier to see them reaching their ceiling if all of them are able to play balls to the wall, full effort, every single possession that they're out there, and understand that when they come off the court, there's not going to be a huge drop-off. Because I know I've been kind of like, oh, Yassin Toomey won't come in and start, I'm saying that because I think we have better players, not because I don't think Toomey doesn't have the ability, because I just said it, where at Evansville, and obviously the Missouri Valley Conference, a little bit different from the Big West, but still a very good conference. He was a starter for the majority of his career there. He averaged 10-6, which was the most on his team, or the second most points on his team, and the most rebounds on his team. So this is a guy who does have starting experience. I just think we have good enough players where he becomes depth, and that should be exciting for fans.
Yeah, and I just like how this recruiting class is. It feels complementary to each other. One,
it doesn't feel just randomly glued together.
One, it's like getting done really early, which we can appreciate, because last year was just like, oh my gosh, like when are we filling up this roster and finding the pieces we need? This year, up to this point, so far, because we don't know anymore. Now we still got a lot of time to make up for it, as they're going to start their summer workouts pretty soon. It does feel more complimentary, and at least that way, when we go into the regular season, we won't see some of these rotations where it just feels clunky and you're kind of trying to figure out the rotations and the subbing patterns. And it was just really confusing and to some extent frustrating to watch, because you just didn't really know. But now when you look at this recruiting class, you're like, all right, this is how it's supposed to feel, where it's more complementary to each other and you're filling, different depths of each position. But yet at the same time, when you do have like your 3-4s can slide into or kind of mix into each other as the season comes along. So I think that's something that I'm excited about or happy about, is that it does feel way more complimentary for this recruiting season as opposed to last year. And we saw how last year's season went, and it was kind of what had happened in recruiting season. So this year will feel it's already, and granted, to be fair, I know Paul and I, as we always are, were very optimistic last year. And
we have our emerald shaded glasses.
I think it was fair that we were optimistic in a certain sense. But I think now, because the recruiting timeline has moved up as versus last year, you have a little bit more time now to get these guys acclimated to each other.
I think that is a really important point, and I wanted to quickly just touch on it before we go to break, where last year, talking to both players and coaches, I think that is a prevailing thought, that not having the roster together, not being able to build that chemistry during the summer. I mean, think about what we talk about all the time when they go on international trips during the summertime or the late summer, and how that can be good, not just for on-court chemistry, but off-court chemistry and those type of things. To have the ability to see these guys go to battle against each other or with each other throughout the entire summer, it almost is like you have a half a season's worth of experience with one another, and that can make it so you start the year off on the right foot, and not so you're trying to figure it out as you're now going into conference play. And I think that would go a long way for the comfort, not just of the players, but of the coaching staff as well.
Yeah, and at least summertime too. They can like hang out with each other, right? Like part
Crazy
of
thought.
Basketball, because you're all like playing in such close proximity to each other. It's nice to kind of like each other and know each other's quirks and personalities. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll close out hour number 1 and get into a lot more stuff in hour number 2 on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and Michael Lescaro on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM, AM 760, and hawaiisportsradio.com. Thank you guys for tuning in, whether it be on radio or online or streaming live on our YouTube channel like we do this and every Monday. And maybe throughout the week, I don't know, we'll see if the guys want to treat you guys to more YouTube shows when I'm gone. But yeah, we'll get there eventually. Again, Michael and Paul filling in starting this Friday, taking over the helms. But we'll get into a lot more recruiting stuff in hour number 2. Also want to talk about the House Settlement that just got finalized over the weekend and how that could directly affect the University of Hawaii, of course, because that's the main thing we care about. The P4s will continue to do their thing, but main thing is, what does that mean for the University of Hawaii? And now with a new athletics director coming in Matt Elliott, a lot of stuff to be considered. But we only have a few minutes left, so I just want to talk about something fun, and this is pretty cool with the EA Sports CFB 2026, or 2025, excuse me, getting ahead of myself.
It's 2026.
Oh, yeah, it is 26. That's right. They do like the year, anyways, year ahead. So this is cool that it's in the game now, right? Like, that's what we were talking about. I think Paul and you and I had mentioned it, where it's like, hey, I wonder if it'll be in the game. When Matt Brown joined us last year, he was saying that a big reason why it wasn't in the game was because things didn't get submitted in time in terms of the photos and stuff. And when you're designing games, it's not just like, oh, let me put some like coding in and there you go, you have a whole stadium for a video game. It's like a long process, similar to the Nike uniforms, because I know there's been questions about what the football uniforms will look like and when we'll get to see that. It takes a lot longer than just like, hey, let's just put this together. But with the football, and shout out to Brandon Tamanaha sending this to our Michael Lescaro, that our cute little Clarence T.C. Ching Athletics Complex, or Ching Field, is in the game. It's kind of funny because they're in this rendering, though, the photo again from Brandon. It kind of looks like a condo in the background. And I'm like, I don't think that's in the background of this one. But nonetheless, it still has our cute. She's so cute in the stadium. So they also have the surfboard cheerleader entrances coming in. So I'm excited that they finally put us in the game.
It's in the game.
It's in the game.
This is super dope. This is what a lot of people were asking for last year, and just in general, it's nice, right? You want to feel represented in whatever way it may be, and in a way, like, I know that we don't necessarily have our stadium yet, right? Hawaii doesn't have our stadium yet, but it's nice to be not just a generic, auto-generated one. I was going to make the joke yesterday to you guys. I'm like, well, they couldn't get me standing on top of all the press boxes because that's where I go up and down between the games, but,
Yeah, I think shout out to whoever posted this on TikTok, because that's where it was obtained from, with the beta codes. But it looks cool, I think it just I think the national public will be like, is this Hawaii Stadium? What is this? So
maybe that'll put pressure on.
They've already seen it on TV. They've already seen what it looks like. So.
2028, you better have it built.
Please.
But even then, right? Because like I said, it takes a long time. So they won't be able to even work on getting it in the game
won't be.
So it'll probably be 2029 when they have the new stadium in, because you have to go in, you have to take the photos of it being done, like everything, how it looks like completed, and then submit those. So you're telling me that 6 months ahead of that kickoff game, they'll let someone in there to take photos of everything?
I think
in Matt Elliott, I trust.
I think it could be in the cards. Do I think it's likely? No.
Okay.
But do I think it could be in the cards? Yes. It's like a 3% chance.
Yeah.
It's the best I'll
That's
give
about it. All right. We're going to take a break. When we come back, again, we'll get into some of the House Settlement discussion and what that means for the University of Hawaii, and how much money exactly will the University of Hawaii need to make up for every single year to as part of their portion that gets, I guess, paid into the $2 billion+ payout that needs to go. And we'll be right back on the
more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den, hour number 2. I'm Ku'ulei Agbayani alongside Paul Brecht and Michael Liscaro on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM, AM 760, hawaiisportsradio.com, and streaming live on our YouTube channel like we do this and every Monday. And you can listen to us live every single weekday from 8 to 10, again, on your terrestrial radio, online, or on demand, wherever you get most podcasts. We appreciate all of you guys that tune in. You can chime in on the live chat. And again, you guys, Paul and Michael, need to keep me in tune with anything that's going on in the live chat because I am flying blind this morning as I forgot my laptop charger. So it is hard for me to keep track with everything that is going on. Aside from our notes and stuff that are here. But text in, you can get in on the conversation to text in as well at 808-888-KG1. That's 808-888-5481. I know we had a text earlier as it deals with the announcement from the Rainbow Warrior basketball program about Patty Mills. Someone texting in about Patty Mills coming in and being able to kind of strategic to keep the Aussie and New Zealand pipeline going on there. So that could be a strategy as well. But as we were mentioning in the first hour, just overall good vibes and helping with the fundraising, especially, and maybe that extra. Maybe having Patty Mills involved with the program, I don't think I mentioned this in the first hour, that might give you that little bit of a leg up. Like if a recruit can't decide between two particular schools, especially two schools either in the Big West or between Hawaii and another school in the Mountain West, having Patty Mills involved in the program might just give you that one little tip over the edge to get that commitment that you want. So I like where your head's at there for Patty Mills. And just all around good vibes for the UH men's basketball program. Again, tune in tomorrow morning. We'll let you hear from what head coach Eran Ganot had to say about this announcement and also what Patty Mills has to say as well. Also in hour number 1, which we'll talk about coming up a little bit, we recycle that topic about UH football and men's basketball recruiting news as well in this second hour. But want to get into kind of the big topic. And I know if it's anything like hour number 1, Michael just wants to give love to Matt Elliott 100%. Like he just finds ways to drop in the namesake
I'm not going to argue with him about
of the new athletics director in Matt Elliott. And well, let me tell you guys that he will have definitely his work cut out for him as if it hasn't already. Now, he is set to be confirmed by the Board of Regents, again, as kind of what we get. That's just formality as it has to be. But by all accounts, since the chair of the Board of Regents, Gabe Lee, was the co-chair on the search committee, I think it's safe to say that Matt Elliott will be pushed through by the Board of Regents coming next week, Monday. And again, to remind you guys, we aren't able to hear from Matt Elliott or President Wendy Hensel in a media capacity until after that confirmation happens. So in case you guys are wondering, why haven't we heard from the new AD? That is why. So we got to be a little bit patient and again, complete the process for this. But he will have his work cut out for him because what we saw happen Friday? I think the news broke on Friday. Of course, naturally, when the show was over, so we couldn't talk about it at all. But about a little bit, maybe late morning, early afternoon Friday, Judge Wilkin officially approved the House Settlement. So what does that mean for everybody that is mainly interested? So the settlement centers on 3 crucial prongs: the $2.8 billion in back pay to athletes dating to 2016 over lost NIL revenues to be paid over 10 years. So $280 million annually, a new age revenue sharing formula that allows schools to pay athletes directly, eliminating restrictions on scholarship numbers in favor of roster limits. Those are the 3 things that are really crucial and will change the landscape moving forward. The back pay portion will largely be shouldered by the NCAA and Power 4 conferences and the Pac-12. Each is named as a defendant in the cases, but this doesn't mean that schools in the G5 and others are not completely exempt. So the NCAA is slated to take on just more than $1.1 billion of the $2.8 billion in damages. The P4 and Pac-12 are responsible for 40%, so about $664 million of the remaining $1.65 billion. The 27 other D1 conferences will pay the outstanding 60% or $990 million through distribution reductions, among other measures. So again, the distribution reductions, as we know, aside from the TV revenue that gets split, there are other things that get split, like when teams make it to the postseason, there's revenue that comes in for that, and that goes to the conference, not necessarily the school that makes it. So again, thank you to San Diego State for the way that they went really far in the NCAA men's basketball tournament. We will take your money. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your donation.
Yeah, thank you for doing that for the Mountain West Conference. So as you transition over, but very, very significant again for especially some of these smaller schools to look at, and schools can start paying athletes on July 1st. So again, just in time for new AD Matt Elliott to start his position. Now I can imagine he probably wants to come on the job a little earlier. Again, that July 1st date is actually the latest that he is eligible to start. So I can imagine after June 16th,
I was going to say,
Matt Elliott's going to be hitting the ground running and starting a couple of weeks early or ahead of time, if he's probably not already kind of got started already.
I'm sure he's not officially doing anything, but I'm sure he has at least kept tabs, much like you and I, Koo, and I'm sure Michael will keep like 50 tabs open at one time. No, I'm sure he's keeping tabs on basically everything that has been going on. And realistically speaking, I'm sure part of the reason why he is being recommended and why he will most likely officially go through on that 16th is because he does have a plan for all of this. I mean, every one of us in sports media, in honestly entertainment, in sports in general, have seen this settlement coming for months now, have been expecting this settlement for months now, right? Or at least knew it was very much so on the table. So I would imagine part of him getting the job is that he does have a plan of how to navigate this uncertain time. And I'm going to say that over and over again, even with some parameters, some guidelines finally being drawn in, it still is the first go round. It still is figuring out how to do it. And it is still very different from UCLA. So like you said, a lot of work cut out for Matt Elliott still, but I like to think that he very likely has a plan that is, if not already in the background starting to take place, getting ready to go and hit the ground running, hit rubber to the road as soon as he gets a chance.
Yeah, and this is where the fundraising part that was very important for the new AD to come in with, because just to elaborate and break it down a little bit more for you guys when it comes to the overall back pay and the, I guess, the funds that are being withheld from the schools. So again, it breaks down to about $37 million per the 27 non-P4/Pac-12 conferences. So that would include the Big West/Mountain West, but obviously Hawaii is mainly part of the Big West during this time. So I don't think there will be, I'll get more clarification, but I don't think anything will necessarily affect the Mountain West side of things. And we'll see how that goes when all of the conference realignment. So $37 million per the 27 conferences that are left outside of those big time conferences, 11 Big West schools, so approximately $3.6 million per school in the Big West. So over 10 years, the University of Hawai'i, again, these are just basic math from what I could find. This is not like confirmation from those running the athletic department right now. So approximately UH needs to make up $336,000 per year for the next 10 years, on top of the fundraising that they already need to find, on top of the fact that they do need to start sharing the revenue that comes in from TV, which isn't a lot to begin with. So just with the payments withheld from the conferences, that's a significant amount of money that Hawaii needs to make up for. And again, that is why it's important to bring in someone who we can assume will be a strong fundraiser for the University of Hawaii. So you're talking about, and I don't know like the distribution figures, it depends on how much Hawaii, and that's where it gets a little shaky because it'll be up to the schools how much they do want to share. There is a cap, but there is no minimum. So think Major League Baseball. There's no minimum. There's no floor that they got to pay and share with the athletes, but they do need to kind of put it out there. And so 336,000. So I'm going to guesstimate maybe around $500,000 that Hawaii needs to make up for on top of already kind of being behind financially. So you're looking at maybe projecting to try to raise $1 million more than what you've already been naturally trying to raise. And that is the significant thing that is coming into play when Matt Elliott is now coming into the fold just in time for everything.
Yeah. Real quick, I just want to say that there is also going to be a clearinghouse for all of these NIL deals because now this NIL situation has been fluid, right? And this is NIL where businesses are sponsoring student athletes to help promote their business, their product, their service. But there is going to be now a clearinghouse. I think it's called NIL Go. I think that's the NIL Go portal.
I believe so.
Yeah, and it's like run by Deloitte or something.
And I think it's starting before July 1st. And so you're going to have to get every deal
I think it was
verified.
Starting any
Allegedly.
deal struck from Saturday on has to go through this and be vetted. And if it's not, well, the thing is, once there is a legal body, we did see how hard the NCAA would crack down back in the day, and I understand there will be further lawsuits and further legal challenges, but at some point, somebody needs to step in, and this does feel like a major first step forward, I'll say, towards that type of competitive balance. We won't get there until they actually negotiate a CBA, but in some types of actual business ventures, what we talk about all the time, NIL being actual name, image, and likeness, and not, hey, your name should be on our roster so I can put your image on our season ticket guide and then you play for us for 1 year. Like this is a step towards that. And Michael, I'm glad you bring it up because of that reason, where it is, it's not going to be something that is perfect right away, but it is something that is the start, it feels like.
And honestly, that's kind of one of the things I didn't really want to emphasize it too much because this is more of the power conferences to try to get them under control, like where it affects Big West, Mountain West. I mean, because you have big time money schools like Boise State exiting. So it's there. But I think the significant part, again, to bring it back home is how does Hawaii now make up like $500,000 in that revenue that they're losing and have to pay out?
Yeah. Well, my advice was going to be, if you're a student athlete getting deals, make sure you save some money on the side. Don't spend your entire check because there is a possibility that you might be able to pay it back. You might have to give the money back, right? You know, us in the adult world, we go through tax season. Oh, I owe taxes this year. So just be smart with your NIL checks. Now, what Ku was saying about how does UH make this up? So far, UH has not make any cuts yet to anything. We see national reports about programs either cutting a sport or cutting positions. And for UH, unfortunately, the sad truth is it might have to be a mixture of both. Because yes, there's fundraising, but if you can't get the fundraising, you have to make cuts. And that's just part of budgeting, right? I know Paul mentioned Matt Elliott having a plan. I think that plan is not a concrete plan. I don't mean that as discrediting Matt Elliott, but one thing that we've been hearing from him about him is that he is a problem solver that collaborates. So I just think that some of these sports, these smaller sports, unfortunately might get cut, and some of these positions in the athletic departments might get cut. If your position's not doing your weight, your position might be cut too. So as much as I say the student athletes need to be mindful of their money with their NIL checks, so does some people in the athletic department need to be mindful, because it's not anything like mad at you or like against you. It's just the nature of the beast that's gonna happen. I know GCU was one where they cut men's volleyball, but ideally with the strategic, like I know it sucked, but they're moving to the Mountain West, which doesn't sponsor men's volleyball. So there is gonna be those tough decisions, and we know how much that caused an uproar. And so if Hawaii needs to make cuts, just understand the situation that we're in, and just have some grace with how things figure out. And yes, those programs could come back, right? We see, I think, Azusa Pacific bringing back football. It is possible for it to come back. So just have some grace during this period, because everybody's trying to figure it out, and it's not easy.
Yeah, I think it is interesting too on what Hawaii and Matt Elliott will decide to do with the percentage split of the revenue share, because a lot of the big schools. So Judge Wilkin, she did not basically Title IX. She ruled that Title IX does not come into play when it comes to revenue share. So schools can distribute the money however they want, and obviously a good portion of the revenue comes in because of football, and at some schools men's basketball, and then at very few schools even women's basketball. But it's not across the board, and schools are deciding how they want to split it themselves. Again, for the power schools, there is a minimum per se. I think it's like at least 10% or something in total of the, so it comes out to of their revenue or their ticket sales, their media rights, and all of that stuff. But a lot of these big schools are opting to share either around 75 to 85% with football, and 10 to 15% with men's basketball, and again 10 to 15% amongst the other sports. So it is interesting when you look at Hawaii, and maybe it is the perfect timing with the Mountain West transition, because at least it'll be everyone's in the same playing field, because all the other schools, except for Grand Canyon. But at the same time, there you go, Grand Canyon, right? They might, where a lot of the Mountain West schools have to share majority of the revenue with the football programs in the Mountain West. Can we see GCU be the top team in the Mountain West for men's basketball, because that's where they can put majority of their revenue share in? So there's kind of that disproportionate, as I mentioned before, when it comes to being in the Big West. These other schools have the upper hand versus Hawaii, because they can put more resources into their basketball programs, versus Hawaii puts a lot of their resources into football. So I'm just putting it out there now, where you can see, again, where when you talk about a school, and I'm glad you brought that up, Michael, with Grand Canyon, with UC Davis, who don't necessarily have, well, UC Davis has a lower level football school, but they don't have to, I guess, proportion the football money and allocate as much to the football team, and now they can put most of it into men's and women's basketball and those kinds of things. So that's where it'll be interesting to see how some of these schools navigate, and that is if you are willing to take the risk of not taking into account Title IX, because if you don't take that into account, we can imagine there's going to be a ton of lawsuits. So the bigger schools are like, they're risking it all. They're like, we won't take Title IX into account. That's not what the judge says. So we'll risk the lawsuits and all that stuff. So that's kind of another little tidbit when it comes to the University of Hawaii and whichever going into the Mountain West Conference, that I am very curious, and hopefully we get more clarification once, Matt Elliott, maybe. Well, what do you say, guys? We ask him that like the first question whenever he
What's
takes
your plan?
How are you going to distribute the revenue
Who
share
gets the
to
money?
the student athletes? Is it evenly across the board between men's and women's sports? Are you going to give it all to men's football, or how are we going to do that? That'll be the perfect question to start off with. Not, hey, congratulations, how are you doing?
Great way to make good
Get in
favor.
there. Get in there. First question. How are you distributing the rev share? How much is it? Are we looking at? How are you going to make up for the $500,000 that you're already working from behind? And welcome to the job for Pat Elliott. Hey. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll continue a little bit more of this conversation and maybe circle back to some of the recruiting stuff we were talking about in hour number 1. So we'll be right back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Yanni on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
It's Wake Up in the Den, Kulea Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and Michael Lescaro on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM, AM 760, hawaiisportsradio.com, and streaming live right now and every single Monday on our YouTube channel. All right, we want to continue talking about the House Settlement because I know people have a lot of questions. And again, I'm still trying to not necessarily learn about it because a lot of stuff, all the information is out there, but trying to think through the different ways that it affects the University of Hawaii, at least immediately. Again, we were mentioning earlier that UH has to at least make up about $336,000 a year in terms of what is going to be withheld for the back pay portion, but also trying to find new ways to get NIL money and then the revenue share. So again, we haven't heard anything about whether there's going to be this 1 year contract with Spectrum for the media rights. So once the media rights comes in, a portion of that now has to go to the student athletes and not go entirely to the school. So you need to make up whatever that portion is. And then you also need to make up for whenever you go into the Mountain West, what that will be when we know what that media rights deal is. Again, Hawaii will get a certain cut of that, but from that cut, you need to give some of it to the student athletes. So it's a whole thing that we need to find ways to make up money. Not only that, but there are scholarship limits now and what that means is that every single player on the team of every single program needs to be given or can be given a scholarship. So the roster sizes will decrease, but now up into a certain amount, every single student athlete can be on scholarship. They don't have to be, but they can be. And obviously, if you want to remain competitive and be able to fuel your program, you need to try to fund all of those scholarships. So for football, for example, there was 85 scholarships available up until coming up for the House Settlement. Now it's 105. Now it shrinks the total roster size. So you have teams like, I forget which school it was, but they were carrying like 180 something people on their roster. They got to bring it down to 105, but they can easily pay out the 105 scholarship amount. So the football program, if they want to, again, remain competitive, needs to find the funding for the 20 more scholarships that they need to fund to get to that 105 number. And I know people are like, can't they just fund the scholarships? Like it's the same school. It's not that simple. You got to account for the actual dollar amount for these scholarships. If you look at something like baseball, it helps out a lot because it's so crazy to think that scholarship number was so small. 11.7 was a scholarship number for baseball. So yes, that's UH. Got to find ways to recruit players with very minimal scholarship numbers. Now, 34 is the new roster limit / all 34 players are eligible to get scholarships for the baseball program. So that's huge. But again, you need to make up for 22.3 more of all of that money that needs to go into the programs in order to hopefully get to that number of the 34 scholarships. So again, it is a lot of money that Hawaii needs to make up for. And I think when Jack Tsui, again, we heard from him, and it's something we've been saying a lot on the show. It's something that the legislature, I remember asking of acting athletics director Lois Mannon, what's the plan to raise more money from other sources, right? And Jack Tsui made that very clear. We need to find other sources to generate revenue because again, what Hawaii has been doing this entire time, that was just to get us to where we've been to raise X amount this every single year. Now we need to raise that X amount and then even more to make up for all of this House Settlement stuff. So that's kind of tying it all in to the University of Hawaii and how this will, and why it's significant and why, I don't want to harp on it too much, but why it was so crucial. And so hopefully it won't be detrimental now that we start to see who, the new AD is. But now we've kind of lost, what is this, like 6+ months of everything after everything happened at the end of last year with the firing of Craig Angeles and why maybe it's starting to, the picture is a lot clearer to a lot of people why I was so adamant about why the decision was made by President Lassner to do what he did at the most crucial time, because you've taken this huge step back when this first 6 months of the year, you could have been working towards that extra fundraising, working towards all of that. And I'm not saying that's not necessarily what the current athletic situation is, that they haven't been doing that, but they've been kind of been planning for this. And were they getting more funds? I don't know. It doesn't feel like it. So again, we're going to try to be optimistic. Matt Elliott coming in, but just to paint the picture for everybody, this is a lot of ground that needs to be made up financially by the University of Hawaii.
Yeah, it's going to be incredibly important for them to continue. But this is what the conversation is. Like you said, it's why we were so frustrated at the timing of it all. Just in general, I'm going to cough maybe. No, I'm good. I'm good. Just in general of it all, because it did feel as though we were coming to a head in this large scale decision in the future of college athletics. And to be in an area of uncertainty, to ask somebody in their first few weeks on the job to, hey, make all of these incredibly important decisions, it felt unfair. And now, once again, it still does feel unfair, but it is just so incredibly important that they went through this process, that they had the best process that they've ever had, because they needed to vet somebody to lead the school, lead the programs, lead a lot of people through this time. And kind of going to what Michael was saying earlier, if you don't want people to lose jobs, if you don't want programs to go to the wayside, you have to find money in new places, new sources, and you have to do it fast. So I'm very, very curious to see how this impacts more so the smaller schools than I am the powers conferences, because of reasons like that. And Hawaii is right in the thick of it.
Yeah. One thing though, I think it would kind of helps a little bit though with Matt Elliott taking over for Craig, is that if there are cuts in the athletic department, Matt Elliott didn't have that opportunity to, I guess, get to know them or have that person where he has to let go have a opinion of him, right? I know there's reports, so I mean we still don't know the exact reason why Craig Anderson got fired. But you can kind of infer between the lines. Maybe there's something going on behind the scenes with, I don't know what's going on. But with Matt Elliott, he can just look at it. This kind of clears the way for him to be more objective and look at these positions or these sports or programs, whatever it may be, and be like, sorry, you got to go. I wish you the best. There's not that emotion tied to it because it's just business. So I think that in a way it helps, I guess. I'm just trying to, I don't know.
Hey, I appreciate you being the more optimistic one here and looking at it from that standpoint. We got a texter that said UH could raise the student athletic fee, which is $50 a semester. This seems extremely low compared to other schools. Should be at least double. $50 is 3 plate lunches, which is so wild to say that, yeah, that's like 3 plate lunches. I feel like you could have gotten 5 at one point. You could get 5 plate lunches with $50 at one point in time. Now it's never land at this point. But yeah, it's fine. But that's the thing. Like, I think Nevada, I believe it was Nevada that did something where it came to student fees and raising certain fees to help elevate their programs. But all those kinds of ideas that need to come into play to really make up, again, not just more money that you already needed to, but just to kind of fulfill and make up all of this money that normally you would have, and now you won't have anymore with the rev share and the distribution. I do want to also point out, when it comes to other schools now, that private equity, so a lot of our business folks that listen to us, private equity now starting to make its way into college sports. Specifically, I just saw this via Sportico this morning. Penn State, UCLA take private equity funding deal with Elevate. So Penn State and UCLA have become the inaugural partners in Elevate's newly unveiled $500 million college investment initiative, according to 3 individuals familiar with the situation. And accordingly, the 2 Big Ten institutions have emerged as the first known universities to formally embrace private capital as a means of funding their athletic departments, signaling a significant milestone in the growing convergence of institutional capital and intercollegiate athletics. So those are, again, some in P4 conferences, but I also want to make note that another article I saw just this morning from, I believe it was Front Office Sports, when it deals with a school we are very familiar with, and no surprise here that Boise State expects private equity investment within the next 6 months. So Boise State continuing to find ways to elevate their program even more as they are actively considering bringing private equity investment into the Broncos athletic department and expects to have a deal in place within the next 6 months. Athletic director Jeremiah Dickey tells Front Office Sports. Dickey saying, quote, ultimately, I need to create more assets for my institution and state. But because the athletic department doesn't earn as much money as some others, he said, he continues this quote, I have to get that much more creative, which means I have to take that much more risk, and appropriately so. So again, all of these athletics directors, and I hope Matt Elliott is going to come in here too, being that his former school is going private equity. I'm not saying that's going to be in a first things first in private equity, but this is kind of, again, just telling all the beautiful people that these are the things that other schools are doing. And if there's any school that needs to get more and more creative, it's the University of Hawaii.
I know we got to go to break, but I just want to chime in one thing to that texter about raising the student athletic fee. If we're going to raise the student athletic fee, though, can the university be committed to fixing the locks on the locker room when they're broken? That's my only thing. We can raise it, but if you're going to raise it, we got to actually use it to help benefit the student athletes. That's all.
I like it. And make sure that every team has at least 2 uniforms. So that'll be a good thing. Yes, we do need to take a break. We'll be right back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to all of you, the beautifulest of all the beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den, Ku'ulei Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and Michael Iscaro on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM, AM 760, and hawaiisportsradio.com, and streaming live on our YouTube channel. So if you guys missed anything, you guys can either watch or listen on demand a little later this morning, and we appreciate you guys for tuning in. Again, you can chime in on the live chat or text us at 808-888-KGU1. That's 808-888-5481. Before we get into some additional, or circle back to our UH football recruiting news that came in over the weekend, I want to actually tell you guys about something very new here at Hawaii Sports Radio, as we are introducing Double Down deals this summer. So you guys can essentially get 2 things for the price of one. Again, going to doubledowndealshawaii.com. We have Fun Factory, back into town with the Hawaii Sports Radio Network. So if you need a fun gift for dad but don't want to break the bank, introducing DoubleDownDealsHawaii.com, where you don't need luck to save. So on sale now, you buy one a $10 reloadable token card to Fun Factory and you get one free, a $20 value for only $10 and valid at all 10 Hawaii locations. We bet dad will love this deal, so don't wait. Visit DoubleDownDealsHawaii.com right now to double your dollar in time for Father's Day. To get the scoops on this and future BOGO deals, follow us on Instagram at High Sports Radio. So pretty cool. We'll have more deals up for you as the year goes along. We've got some stuff that we're working on. So it'll be really, really cool. So again, DoubleDownDealsHawaii.com, and we'll get you all of that. All right, want to circle back to our UH football recruiting news. We're talking significantly about it in hour number 1, but I did, for any of the listeners that are kind of just tuning in either on their drive or whatnot, I wanted to circle back to that topic because I know it's always on people's mind as we talk about just everything happening in college sports. Want to make sure we bring it back home. So a few football recruits coming in for the class of 2026. We got Micah Eugenio, a quarterback out of Bishop Gorman, Jaron Altura, the corner out of St. Louis, and Isaiah Nichols, an athlete out of Bishop Gorman. So kicking it back over to you, Michael, just the gist of maybe if some of our listeners missed the first hour, what can you tell us quickly about some of these three guys that have committed most recently to the University of Hawaii?
Yeah, so Hawaii got 3 commits of the class of 2026 over the weekend, bringing our total amount to 4 commits for this class. The highlight of the class is quarterback Micah Eugenio from Bishop Gorman. Another Micah from Bishop Gorman. He doesn't have the experience as Alejandro did during his time at Bishop Gorman, but he is a bit taller and he can sling it, right? So that's something that's gonna be awesome to see. Also, he's I think he's a ambassador for Zippies in Vegas, so he's already on his NIL deal. Maybe I'll get a chance to talk to him later today. I've been communicating with his dad, so Micah definitely is someone that wanted to come back home. He grew up in Kapolei and attended Kamehameha. So he went to Kamehameha. So he has Hawaiian blood in him. So, we love that. Another Bishop Gorman guy, he's an athlete, can kind of play both ways, and just kind of a shifty little fellow, is Isaiah Zay Nichols. His mother actually, per Steven's side, grew up in Pro City and attended there till maybe about sophomore year of high school before she moved. So he does kind of have a local tie there on his mother's side. But yeah, he's I think he had a non-committal offer from Boise, so at least somebody's looking at him. I think Colorado State's in there, Idaho State in there. I know former University of Hawaii and Campbell High School standout Samson Ongwa is there now, so he probably sees a similar player. That's why he went for Isaiah. But yeah, he can fit in wherever. I don't really know where the coaches see him. I think coaches see him maybe playing both ways. Maybe he can replace Elijah Palmer in a few years. He's got around the same height as Elijah Palmer, but he's got to kind of build up. But then we also have Jaron Altura from St. Louis, defensive back. And I think this guy is going to be a guy that's going to surprise some folks and maybe be a good contributor for the Rainbow Warriors for a long time. He is a track athlete. He runs a 40 in like under 4.4. I think it's a 4.38. So he's got speed. Good thing about him is that he projects to kind of kick in either at corner or nickel, which is a good thing in terms of like your work to a program, because usually in the NIL space or even in NFL football, you pay your corners the top money, and if the corners they lose a step, then you can always bump them into safety. Think of Woodson from the Raiders to the Pack. Is it Charles Woodson?
Charles Woodson.
Yeah. I know there's a Rod Woodson, but Charles Woodson. He bumped over to safety later on in his career, so that's kind of a good sign. And one thing to note about Jaron Altura is that when he first started his high school career at St. Louis, he was trying to play quarterback. So, in this last season, he made the move to corner, was the first team All-Hawaii selection open division by scoring live. So he definitely has that potential, and there's untapped potential still in him in terms of playing the position. And I trust Coach Dennis Thurman and Coach PJ Manaya to help coach him up to be a good contributor for the Rainbow Warriors in the near future.
Love it. We always love hearing all of the football news coming out. And again, make sure you follow Michael Liscarroll to keep yourself the most updated with UH football and, of course, high school football and everything that ties in between. Before I kick it over to Paul to let you guys hear a little bit more, again, about Yassine Toomey, a UH men's basketball commit we talked about in the first hour, but want to circle back to that as well. A couple of other notable commitments coming in over the weekend, both committing to Cal. Thank you and no thank you, Nick Rolovich. Taking some of these big top players coming out of Hawaii for the class of 2026. Farrington offensive lineman Kaloy Kelly had committed to Cal, and before that, towards the ending of last week, one of the top players in the state for the class of 2026, tight end Taimane Purcell out of Kamehameha School's Kapalama, also announcing his commitment to Cal. So, Nick,
stay away.
Well, the Kaloy Kelly one kind of hurts a bit because he was scheduled to take an official visit to Hawaii this weekend. This weekend. So it just kind of sucks that but I guess he's gonna come here and enjoy the vibes. Maybe Coach Timmy Chang can help steal him away, right? I think Coach Timmy, what I've been told, he was kind of sick this past weekend for the official visit, so he was kind of missed off on that. But maybe we'll see this weekend if Coach Timmy can, if Kaloy's still coming to UH for his official visit. But we'll see what happens.
Hey, we saw Jaron flip flop, so maybe we can see that happening for UH football as well. But those are the two bigger commitment announcement that came in over the weekend. But yeah, just a couple of guys going over the Hawaii Cal pipeline, I guess you can say, continuing there, and that'll be maybe likely when Jaron Kawaii-Sango Pulutele could be the official starter. We'll see what happens. We're going to have to be forced to follow a lot of Cal stuff there. Anywho, switching over to men's basketball real quick, Paul, for all of our listeners that may have missed some of our men's basketball conversation in hour number one. First, the breaking news that came out this morning is that Patty Mills, the NBA veteran, has been announced as the new general manager for the Rainbow Warrior basketball team. Again, tune in tomorrow morning and we'll let you hear from Patty Mills and head coach Aron Ganot about that announcement. But also coming in towards the ending of last week, another commitment for the Rainbow Warriors in Yassine Toomey, a 6'10", 215-pound forward, a grad transfer out of Seton Hall, but originally from France. So just the gist, Paul, for all of our listeners that maybe didn't hear our chat in hour number one, a little bit about Yassine Toomey.
This is a bounce-back candidate this year in the Big West, where he went up a level to the Big East last year, didn't get as much playing time as his two prior seasons, and had his production drop off a little bit. His 2 years previously at Evansville, one of which he spent with a fellow Hawaii commit in Tanner Cuff. Both of them very, very strong seasons, averaged over double figures in points and also led the team in rebounds both years. So this is a guy who has starting experience. This is a guy who has experience with somebody else who is already committed to the Rainbow Warriors this offseason, and it continues giving you more and more depth in the front court. You can play big lineups. You can play small lineups. He has the ability to kind of play 5 out. He'll knock down a few threes here and there. I think almost Tanner Christensen-esque in that level where he's not going to take them like, 3-4 a game, but he will take them if you leave him open out there, and he has the ability to knock them down. He's going to do more of his damage, though, from the mid-post, from the elbows. A solid passer, good scorer. Would like to see his free throw efficiency go up a little bit more. Shoots just over 50% there. Kind of Bernardo da Silva-esque kind of frame. But overall, another exciting add to the Rainbow Warriors for next year in terms of just adding to the front court. They're just bigger, more athletic, more fast for next year.
Woo! More faster, more better. Are they as fast, though, as if you put the rubber slippers on your hand? That's the main thing, though. I know, Paul, did you know that makes you faster if you put your slippers on your hand? What?
Gosh, I have no comment on that one. Take that back, too. Oh, my goodness.
It does. It makes you faster. You put it on your hand, it makes you faster.
The funny thing is I've put my slippers on my hands before, but I didn't ever think, I'm like, oh, this makes me faster.
It makes you faster.
I was just like, oh, this is funny, and if I hit somebody, it's going to hurt more.
It's unproven scientifically, but here in Hawaii,
gosh.
maybe it's only here in Hawaii, it makes you faster for sure. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back to wrap things up here on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Wake up in the den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and Michael Iscaro on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network. Thank you guys for tuning in to our packed show. Woo! We had a lot of business to cover today and definitely have some more stuff to cover tomorrow as we're talking in between the break where Phil Steele's, at least we can get the digital version of Phil Steele. So we'll have more UH football and Mountain West football conversation coming up in tomorrow's show. So already starting to preview this upcoming season as if we haven't already for some things. But be sure to you guys tune in tomorrow where we'll circle back to more UH football talk. But in the last couple of hours, we've been talking extensively about the UH football and men's basketball recruits and the House Settlement and what that means and how it affects the University of Hawaii, at least from what we can see so far. And then we will see what happens when new athletics director Matt Elliott takes over the helm, which I can imagine will be before July 1st. Again, should he be confirmed next week, Monday, which all signs point to he will be, so we can already assume and pencil him in as the next AD of the University of Hawaii at Manoa. I can imagine he's going to, if he hasn't already, started to kind of get started on this job, because July 1st is when schools can officially start paying their student athletes directly and now planning for all of the other things that are coming down via the House Settlement. So we'll be paying close attention to that. And maybe that's why, like I said, when I'm on vacation, I'm going to be like, guys, I have to chime in on the House Settlement stuff. I got you got to have me on. I have things to say. It's kind of, it's like my therapy. Like I get to talk to everybody, and I am Portuguese, so I think that's why it kind of helps me to just start blabbing about anything and everything. And you guys help me start my days like the best ever when I get to chime in on the radio. And as someone who doesn't know how to actually take a full vacation and has more stress about taking more than 10 days off than how much I feel like I will relax. Yeah, that's like I need to get my dash of being able to talk to you guys while I'm away. But I did want to, before we end off, so our team was out this weekend covering the Special Olympics Hawaii Summer Games 2025. So this is ultimately, as Greg Tarun put it for us, the director of sports for Special Olympics Hawaii, that this is as it sounds, it's their Olympics, but to kind of tie it into how much we promote the HHSA or their state tournament, this is how big of a deal it was for these athletes competing over the weekend. And one of the photos I wanted to share, shout out to the Pirates of Oahu and the Diamond Kings of Maui, giving us quite the exciting unified softball game. The Maui team almost coming back on the Pirates, and that was because we had our good friend Mr. Bean that was joining us towards the end, who is from Maui. One of the other athletes competing joined us on air. You can watch our coverage of the unified softball game, the swimming competition, and the opening ceremonies on our YouTube channel, as we're proud to be part of this event and look forward to being part of many events for Special Olympics Hawaii in the future. But 15-14 was your final score in that unified game. And hey, I tell you what, people say that, baseball, softball sometimes can be not that exciting because there's not that many runs scored. I know that's a criticism when it comes to soccer as well, but you guys got to come out. It was really exciting. There's a lot of hits in these games, and they were competitive. But shout out to all of the athletes who competed, and we had just the joyous time being able to bring a lot of this promotion to these hardworking athletes in the state of Hawaii.
It was truly incredible. Like, it really, really was one of my favorite weekends I've had probably in the last year, maybe more. The smiles were endless, and I'm talking about the people in the stands, because the athletes, I'll tell you, they were not taking it as if it was, oh, we're here for fun. Like you said, this is their state championship. This is like literally the best of the best, and you saw that softball game. I mean, I'm going to just say it. The Oahu Pirates are lucky that the game had to end when it did.
That's true.
They're lucky that it had to end when it did, because man, oh man, were the Diamond Kings making a comeback. In their last 2 innings, I think they put up 11 runs or something along the lines. Like, it truly was crazy. And for those of you who don't know what I'm referring to, unified softball does have a time limit, so no innings can start after a particular point. I think for the finals, it was after an hour and 10 minutes. Typically, it is 55 minutes. A new inning cannot start. So the Diamond Kings really just fell short, but still silver medalists and an awesome weekend nonetheless.
Yeah, I had fun. Definitely interviewing Ryan. That was kind of fun because he,
Mr. Bean.
Mr. Bean. And it was kind of cool. I mean, I know Paul was kind of asking his usual Paul questions, but, just kind of throw back, there's a lot of pizza, Mr. Bean. What is that you're like, do you have any friends on the Diamond Kings? That's from Maui, who are you supporting? And that was cool to see him animated. But yeah, hopefully next year. I mean, one thing that Greg told us was that if you're a volunteer, you will be fed, you will have drinks. So, and we saw the war chest of snacks and everything that they had. I mean, I took like 2 full boxes of pizza home, and it's still in the fridge, so I have food for the whole week. So, yeah, you will be taken care of if you want to be a part of this.
It is true. I did bring my banana that I got from that as well. So it was a totally fun time coming out. Shout out to all of the athletes that compete in the Special Olympics. And it is very much like the entire Olympic Games. Like, I know they're going to take a trip to the continent, and they also have kind of like how with the traditional Olympics, there are different sports in like traditional Olympics have, I guess summer and winter. The Special Olympics are kind of divided as well. So there are other sports like basketball that are part of Special Olympics, but it's during another time period, and they have like bocce ball and stuff like that. So hopefully, depending on when it falls in, we can bring you more coverage of that. But wanted to make sure to give our new friends all their flowers for competing and letting us have a good time and watching all of the competition, and again, all the smiles, and especially the swimmers. I need to give the biggest shout out to the swimmers, because they could probably beat me, and we're just talking like down and back. So what is that, like a 50 yards or 100 yards?
I'm like, they were doing 50 yards.
Oh my goodness, like they could definitely beat me in the swimming portion, because the stamina that they had. I mean, kudos, because I was getting tired just watching all of them. So it was just a fun time.
I'm just really thankful that they allowed us to be a part of their weekend. I think it is a marginalized group that does not get a ton of fanfare. I think that it is one that is oftentimes very misunderstood and one that is over-infantilized where it doesn't need to be. So to be able to give them a weekend of actual sports coverage, to be able to give them a weekend and for them to give us that opportunity meant a lot to me. So I really do appreciate that from the Special Olympics Hawaii. If you can go out and support, please do, whether it's a monetary thing, whether it's a time thing, just a support thing.
For sure, we got to get more people out I want to see more people out for that unified softball gold medal match because that was incredible, and if fans being there would make it even, step it up a little bit more. But we gotta go. So for Michael Escaro, Paul Brecht, I'm Ku'ule Agbayani. Mahalo for listening. Bye.
Your brand new home for